Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officials with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is Football Officials Training Tape number 7. Have a few plays on here, talk about mechanics and some philosophy situations. And again, not picking on any one team or player or official, just using these as a learning opportunity. Hopefully these tapes are helpful for you in that regard. So with that, we'll get to the plays. On this play, we'll have a false start on the left slot, I believe, at the top of the screen. When we have procedural fouls, just a reminder again, we want to make them really big, really obvious. Again, if I have to pause the video and click through it in slow motion, that's not the kind of foul we're looking for when it comes to the 5-yard procedural fouls. We want to make sure that they're big, 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 really obvious to everyone, okay? So make sure we do that philosophically. And then I really like the communication on this play from the wing. Kills the clock, and then he gives the information, preliminary signal to the referee, who can then give his signal and announcement to the press box in an efficient manner. And then we have a very nice announcement.
Tigers, dead ball, false start. Offense, number 84, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
It's on.
Now in this play, we'll have a pretty obvious procedural foul, and this is what we're looking for when it comes to these kind of fouls. Pretty obvious, several players, significant movement, simulating the start of the play, so very well done. Umpire, nicely done, good count, good signal, confirms with the referee, well done on that. Good initial position by everyone, and then I like the efficient communication again from the wing to the referee, gives them the signal of a full start and the number so that he can give his announcement, and then we have a very nice, calm, and very efficient announcement.
Dead ball, false start on the offense. Number 11, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
On this play, we have several things to take a look at. We have good coverage and initial position by the crew, and then we have a fumble by number 43, a loose ball, and recovery by the defense. We have good coverage here. Line of scrimmage official comes back in the white, 2 swipes, and then point to award the ball to the defense. You'll notice that when the ball is loose, that the defensive player blocks the offensive player, number 43, in the back to get at the loose ball. Ordinarily, a block in the back would be illegal, except if you take a look at Rule 935B, it says that a player shall not block an opponent in the back except using hands and arms to contact an opponent above the waist in warding off a blocker or when attempting to reach a runner or catch or recover a loose ball which he may legally touch or possess. So in this case, he's trying to get at the loose ball, so as long as it's above the waist like it is here, this would be a legal block by the defensive player to get at that loose ball. So well done on not having anything there. Referees really like the coverage and hustle here. I like that he maintains a cushion. The only thing I would say is try to stay to the inside of the numbers. If you get to the numbers, I would stop there and referee inside out, because if you keep going towards the numbers, let's say this defensive player picks it up and runs with it, now he's going to be right in your lap. So you want to make sure that you stay to the inside of the field and officiate inside out, and then if it turns back up the field, then you can maintain your positioning on the numbers, keep an eye on the quarterback, and then your line of scrimmage official can come up the sideline and take forward progress or rule at the goal line. So again, really like the coverage, like the hustle, good cushion, but when you get to the numbers on a play like this, just stop right there and officiate from the numbers, and that way you can help officiate if we have a change of possession going the other direction. And then good beanbag and good coverage by the crew. Okay, on this play we'll have a broken play. The quarterback ends up coming to the bottom of the screen, and we'll have a block at the 30, and a blindside block is ruled by the line judge at the bottom of the screen. I can support this foul. Anytime we have a 50-50 play on safety-related fouls, we need to throw the flag. Now, what I would say is, back judges, let's have an opinion on this block. If you think that it's not there, or you have some concerns about it, we should get in and talk with the line judge on this particular play, because our eyes should come right to that point of attack and help out with blocks. And then I like that the line judge is not fixated on the ball carrier. I like that he gets to blocks to take a look, and then we have a good brief conversation with the referee and give him the information he needs. And then remember, we have a different signal this year for blindside blocks, so make sure, referees, that we're using that, and use spot of the foul if that's something that you're going to use, or previous spot, whatever the case may be. You can use that in your announcement. But again, we're looking for forceful contact and a block that the person who's being blocked doesn't see coming, to have a blindside block foul, and just make sure we have an opinion as a back judge on this play. Again, 50-50 safety fouls, I am supportive of. If we're not sure, throw the flag on 15-yard variety. If we are not sure on 5 and 10-yard, then we should keep the flag in our pocket. But in this case, I can support forceful. Definitely can support the fact that it is a blindside block by definition. Just back judges, make sure you have an opinion, and good job of not ball watching by the line judge. Okay, in this play we have a free kick, so we have a number of rules in play on free kicks, in addition to players being spaced out, a lot of different things to take into consideration. So when we're working free kicks, we need to make sure that we stick with our keys, our areas of coverage, our zones, be mechanically sound, because there's just so many players moving around in space that if we decide to officiate in other places on the field that our eyes don't belong, we're going to miss stuff. So we just want to make sure that we're sound on the rules that apply, and then also sound mechanically in our coverage areas. And you'll notice that they were using last year's mechanics, and it doesn't put us in as good a position to officiate this play. So the first thing you'll notice is that we have kind of a fake trick play where he fakes a forward hand. Now, if you take a look at Rule 7.3, handing the ball, it talks about that players can hand the ball forward, assuming it's behind the neutral zone. Well, we have no neutral zone on a kickoff, so in this particular play, had he gone ahead with that handing of the ball, that would be a foul. That would be a 5-yard spot foul in that case. There is no loss of down provision on this play, so it would be 1st and 10 from that 5-yard penalty spot. Then you'll notice that as he's coming around the end, we have a pretty forceful shoulder block that should have been ruled as a blindside block foul. So I think what happens with 5 officials, sometimes we get caught ball hawking a little bit, and then we miss these blocks in space. But the block at the 20 is a blindside block foul, and one that we would want called. It's forceful with the shoulder. He doesn't see it coming. It's not initiated with open hands. And again, those are the factors that we're using to look for those blocks. And you'll see it here on this replay. But again, if we officiate our area, our zone of responsibility, we should be able to pick these up. And then finally, we don't have a horse collar tackle at the end, but just something to consider. Remember that they can't grab the inside or side of the shoulder pad or jersey and pull that player to the ground immediately. You'll see that number 24 continues and moves ahead and falls forward another 4 or 5 yards. That's not a horse collar tackle. If he brings him down immediately to the ground, even if he fumbles, then that would be a horse collar tackle. So again, a lot of stuff to look at when we have kickoffs. I just want us to be aware of our zones of responsibility so that we can officiate these plays as effectively as we can. So pretty good job of the crew by the crew. Would have liked to have seen a foul or a flag thrown for the blindside block, but overall, good coverage by the crew. Now in this example, he will actually go ahead with forward handing. So just something we want to be aware of. We saw it on the last play that occurred earlier in the game. So our antennas should be up for trick plays and potential issues with that. So we don't want to nitpick this. I mean, if it's to the side or sort of forward, you know, we may want to talk to the coach about it. But if it's pretty clearly forward, then we would want to have a flag down. Just make sure we're in good position to see it. I think this is pretty clearly forward and something that we would need a flag on. But again, don't nitpick if it's off to the side or if it's, you know, backwards. Obviously, they were fine at that point. But don't nitpick. But if it's pretty clearly forward, then we'll want to be in position to see it so that we can rule on that play. Okay, on this play, we're going to have a field goal attempt on 4th down. So we have scrimmage kick formation, numbering exceptions. What happens if we miss the kick? Remember, we treat it just like a punt. So if it gets blocked, subsequently crosses the goal line, we're going to kill that play as a touchback. We don't have previous spot or bring the ball to the spot of the kick or anything like that like we do in other rules codes. And then in this case, we have a broken play, bad snap, or he fumbles the snap, muffs the snap, and then we need to know what he can do. Can he pitch it to somebody else? You know, who are our eligibles? You know, ineligible downfield, OPI, DPI, those kind of things. There's just a lot of considerations to have when it comes with these kind of plays. So first thing, when we have scrimmage kick plays and we have trick plays or broken plays, then they're going to have to follow just about everything to the letter of the rule. So in this case, we need to make sure that we know who are eligible. So what I would do, referee, I would communicate the eligibles on my side to that wing official, and then potentially back judge, you can take a peek at the eligibles on the other side and communicate that with the other wing official to make sure that if the play breaks down, we know that they can only throw to those players and we won't have a problem. Because you'll be able to save the day if they end up throwing to, let's say number 33 is a numbering exception and they end up throwing it to him, you'll be able to save the day because 33 was not one of the numbers that you discussed with your crew prior to the play. So I would make sure we do that on every scrimmage kick, pick up all of the eligibles, who can get a ball thrown to them if something breaks down. And then in this case, he throws the ball, it's thrown behind or caught, touched behind the line, so we're good as far as pass interference is concerned. We're good as far as ineligible downfield is concerned, blocking downfield. And the only way we can tell that is because the line of scrimmage official maintains his spot at the line. Then once the ball is thrown, or caught in this case, he is able to move to the line to gain, get a really nice spot, does a really nice sell, comes in, kills the clock. Referee, we had a big line to work with. That's another reason we want to be on a big line if we can, because without a measurement, he was able to give them a first down. The other thing we need to consider here is back judge and umpire. At what point do you break for the pylon? Do you break for the goal line? That's something that you'll have to discuss with your crew, number one. Number two, it depends on how far the kick is. So in this case, pretty close to the goal line. I don't think even if we have, Olympic speed, I don't think we're going to get to the pylon before the players do. So you're better off either staying put, moving down the end line to help officiate inside out. Get to the goal line if you can to help. Otherwise, don't put yourself in harm's way or get yourself caught up in the play by moving up too quickly or unnecessarily. But if it's a further kick, you might be able to make the goal line or the pylon and help. So lots of considerations on kicking plays. Just make sure as a crew we pregame, talk about how we're going to cover if we have a broken down play on a scrimmage kick. Make sure they're in scrimmage kick formation, eligible numbers, blocking downfield, ineligibles, all the factors that come into play, and then whether or not they can actually recover and or advance a loose ball. So no one said officiating is easy. It's not, but again, talk through these things as a crew and we'll be in good shape if it happens on Friday night. Okay, on this play we're going to have a kickoff in a not obvious onside kick situation. So we'd probably be in regular free kick coverage position, and then we end up having an onside kick. I know we talked earlier about we should always expect any kickoff to be an onside kick or to have something goofy. So I suggested that we should carry a beanbag in our hand on free kicks just for situations like this. And then remember that the person who kicks the ball has to be, or they can be outside that 5-yard belt from the kicker's restraining line. Everyone else needs to be inside. They are in this case, but just something to remember. It does happen on occasion. And then let's talk about the mechanics of onside kicks. So when the ball is kicked and it's bouncing on the ground, we need to know when they're eligible to touch, eligible to block. I think we're good here because it's a pretty far kick, but you'll notice that the ball is touched legally at the 29-yard line. Then we have an accidental kick prior to recovery by the receiving team. So we're not going to have a foul for illegal kicking. That's purely accidental contact, so we're good there. But when we have a ball that's legally touched in the field of play like we have here at the 29-yard line, the clock should begin to run, which means we should have a wind the clock signal from the covering official, probably most in this situation, probably the line judge in our new mechanic. Last year it would have been the umpire, but this year the line judge should have a wind the clock signal, and then we would cover the play just like any other loose ball play. But make sure we have a wind the clock signal when it's legally touched at the 29-yard line, as it is here. Good job of not having a foul for illegal kicking, and then we have good coverage. Now notice that the clock continues to run. I think the clock keeper figured out he should have started it and didn't. Now he lets it continue to run, and we don't pick this up as a crew. So besides the mechanics of handling onside kicks, we just need to be aware of the clock. Fix it as necessary. If he doesn't start it, go ahead and adjust. Give him a certain amount of time you want on, but we can't let 22 seconds run off the game clock in a dead ball situation, and because again it's going to fall back on the crew that we weren't aware of it. And if this is in the fourth quarter, 22 seconds is a pretty big deal, and we want to make sure that we manage the clock effectively and make sure that the clock keepers are focused and aware of what's going on. But again, start the clock signal, wind the clock signal when it's legally touched in the field of play, good coverage by the crew, and then let's just have a better awareness of the game clock in these kind of dead ball situations. Okay, we've had a lot of questions about free kick out of bounds and the enforcement provisions for free kick out of bounds. So just thought I'd talk about it a little bit here. We're looking at Rule 619, and it talks about your choices there. So if we have a free kick that's kicked out of bounds between the goal lines and it's untouched by R, then we are going to have these options for R. So as was the case last year, 5-yard penalty from the previous spot, and you can have K re-kick. We'll skip B, we'll go to C. They can put the ball in play at the inbound spot 25 yards beyond the previous spot. So if we kick off from the 40, we're going to be at the 35 yard line, that's 25 yards beyond the previous spot, and it has to be at the inbound spot. So if they kick it out of bounds to the press box side, the ball has to be put on the hash on the press box side. D says they can decline the penalty and put the ball in play at the inbound spot, which they may have done that in the past on, say, an onside kick that went out of bounds at the 50. They might have just declined the penalty and taken it right there. Well, now D is pretty much an obsolete option, considering that the new option allows you to take a 5-yard penalty from the succeeding spot. So if they kick the ball out of bounds at the 50, like the example that I just stated, then they can add 5 yards on to the end of the play and have 1st and 10 from there at the 45. This provision allows you to add 5 yards on to the out of bounds spot, basically, not to put the ball at the 35 and then add 5. So if the ball goes out of bounds at the 20-yard line, your options are 5 yards and re-kick, or place the ball at the 35-yard line on the inbound spot, or 5 yards added onto the 20, which they're not going to take. So you can't combine these options. So you can't combine B and C. They are separate options. So again, you can't put the ball at the 35 and then add 5 on to that to the 40. So been a little bit of confusion on that, but it's just 5 yards from the dead ball spot, to have as a penalty provision. But for the most part, it's going to be at the 35-yard line. But if it's kicked out of bounds at the 35, then you could add 5 on, because that's 5 yards from the dead ball spot. So hopefully that clears up some of the misconceptions about that rule. Thanks, everybody. A little longer tape again. Just a lot of stuff to go through when we work games, and hopefully some of this information is helpful for you. Have a great game tonight or tomorrow, and have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.